So, welcome. A very big, warm welcome to all of you who I've already met, because there's a lot of you on this webinar that I already know. So that's brilliant that you've joined me tonight. And really, I'd like to extend a really big, warm welcome to those of you that I don't yet know. It's really lovely to have you here. Welcome to you from all over the place, really, in the UK and Canada and the USA and even continental Europe. I'm not quite sure where you are. This webinar software doesn't tell me exactly where you are, it just tells me that you're in Europe. So, welcome to you. We're going to talk about 5 little known mind methods that can make or break rider confidence. Now, do post in the chat box if you have any questions or comments, and there'll also be time at the end to ask more questions. So if you want to save your question right till the end, then that's absolutely fine. We'll go through some answers and questions right there. So let's get straight into it then. So tell me, have you ever just tried to face your fear? Maybe just to grit your teeth and bear it and try to get over your fears. Have you ever tried to rationalize it, that it's not logical? You're a perfectly good enough rider. You've got the evidence from various instructors, maybe friends, other riders, but being logical about it, has that worked? So, how did it go? Being logical about it. And if it didn't work, I bet you've tried a load of other things too, possibly before you even thought about doing this webinar. So you're in perfectly the right place if you've tried to think about your fear logically. Reason with yourself that there's really no need for you to worry. You're in the right place if you've ever used calmers for you or for your horse, and they didn't seem to do much good either. You're in the right place if you've ever bought bits of kit to help you gain confidence. Now, I'm all for people wearing body protectors or buying the cheese grater stirrups that help you feel more stable. I'm not saying that it's wrong to buy these bits of kits, but if they didn't work as well as you'd hoped, then you're in the right place. You're also in the right place if you find excuses not to ride, and there's a little bit of celebration there when you possibly can't ride because of the weather or too little time. Or this is a good one that I've heard before: I or my horse need a rest to consolidate what we're learning. Which is fine. Yeah, you can't keep on a treadmill, but having a 6 months rest is probably not the best thing. You're in the right place if your mind is really full of doubts and what ifs. And maybe you can even rival Spielberg for the disaster movies that you run in your mind and all the outcomes that you can possibly think about. You're also in the right place if you feel that sense of relief when you get off the horse, and it's more joy in getting off than there is in getting on. You're perfectly in the right place if you think, I know this works for others, but it probably won't work for me. Or maybe you can see how it could work, but you're thinking, well, I'll just give it 5 more minutes. She's not going to be able to give away any secrets for free, is she? I am going to tell you 5 ways that you can supercharge your thinking, change your thinking, and by thinking very differently and having different perceptions, you can start to ride differently. So the big 5 that I often hear about are things like cantering, jumping, competing, hacking, having people watch you. Whether you know those people or not, whether you're imagining that they're being highly highly critical, or you have no idea what they're talking about. Now, maybe your fear isn't listed here. Maybe it's something else. And what's interesting about what we're going to talk about this evening is that it really doesn't matter what the fear is or where it stems from, or if it's only a fear when you reach a certain level of riding, so you push yourself a little bit, because the fear that we generate inside our minds is generated in exactly the same way. So to root it out, we can do exactly the same techniques. I want to tell you a little bit about myself and how I got into this riding confidence stuff. I want to tell you about 3 horses that I've had and how they affected my confidence. So the first horse I want to tell you about was a little pocket rocket called Jet. And he could be quite difficult at times. Now, I ignored the fact that my instructor would get on him and struggle. And I also had a friend who's a professional rider, and she would get on and really have to have a fight with him, really, to get him over a jump. And I didn't really think about that because I noticed that I was falling off, that I was getting refusals at jumps and runouts, and this was eroding my confidence. And I thought it was me. I thought I was a rubbish rider. And it wasn't really worth me getting another horse because I was going to repeat all the same mistakes. So I really persevered with Jet. I really, really pushed myself, probably beyond what was sensible. I probably, in hindsight, should have sold him sooner because he wasn't the right horse for me. And in keeping him and in continuing to have my issues and my problems, I think that really, really did put my confidence at an all-time low. When I did eventually sell him, then I bought a horse called Tiggy, and I still have Tiggy. Tiggy's wonderful. She's retired now, and I don't ride her, but she did bring back some confidence. What was niggling me was that I was still worrying about making an idiot of myself, because those same people who had seen me fall off, seen me have jumps refused and so on, were the same people who were going to see me with Tiggy. And there was a part of me that really believed it was me. And did I really want to show everybody that it really was me, and it really was that I couldn't ride well and I probably needed to give up? So very much a problem of my own creation, because Tiggy was super. And it was all inside my mind, these previous problems kind of lingering around. When Tiggy retired, then I bought Lottie. Now, Lottie jumps everything. She's really bold, and she'll jump off a stride that isn't really a stride to jump off at all. She just goes for it. So you would think with a horse like that, that I would get my confidence back automatically. I'm still worrying, though, about all the things that happened 2 horses ago. Lottie hadn't got any of the characteristics of Jet. Neither had Tiggy. And yet I'm still plagued with these same thoughts. In fact, what happened with Lottie was that I kind of tied myself in so many knots that it manifested itself as another fear, which I'd never had before, which was oxes. And to be honest, I really don't know how this came about, because logically speaking, any of you that enjoy a jump will know that jumping an oxer is far nicer than an upright, because the horses make such a nice shape over it. You feel so much better as a rider. So there was no logic to this. The analysis didn't make any sense. So I fully understand this trying to talk yourself confident. And I fully understand problems that have sort of been carried along with you from horse to horse. So I even found time to cook up a new fear, and that was all to do with mounting. This was nothing to do with me. I simply overheard two people having a conversation whilst I was mucking out, and I kind of picked up that fear. I didn't do it knowingly. It was when I went to get on the very next time, I'd completely forgotten those girls and their conversation, but my mind hadn't. And it just took a few seconds, a bit of a pause, while I was thinking, oh God, oh, I've got to get on. But what about what they were talking about? So I understand that fear can come from all kinds of places and at any time. Well, this started to really get me down because I was really miserable. I was really frustrated in myself, and I often felt very disappointed in myself and my riding. I just had this inkling that if I just lifted those nerves, that underneath, well hidden somewhere, there was a better rider. So I said to myself, look, this has got to stop. This hobby costs a fortune. It costs so much time and effort and energy. And to be kind of forcing yourself into it and not enjoying it, well, that's ridiculous. So I really, really had a tough talk with myself. It reminded me very much of a quote that I really like from Tony Robbins. And he says, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always gotten. Which to me explained why I had the same problems carrying on through different horses. And that it may not have made any sense, but I wasn't really trying anything different inside my mind. Yeah, I had different horses, I had different yards, different people. I might have tried a few breathing techniques and so on. But inside my mind, everything was the same. So I want to tell you a little bit about how I totally got rid of my riding fears. Well, first of all, I became really obsessed with finding out what would work for me and my stubborn brain because I was pretty sure that it was inside my head, but I was pretty sure that whatever it was ingrained and that I probably wouldn't get rid of it. I've told you a story really very, very quickly, but it lasted years. Almost every time I Googled rider confidence, this NLP stuff came up. Now, at first, I got a bit fed up of seeing this NLP because when I started to read the articles, not necessarily to do with riding, but all kinds of aspects of things in life, then it seemed to be this kind of wonder cure for everything. And I'm a highly skeptical person by nature. And so I thought, well, this is ridiculous. It can't be this perfect. It can't be this easy. And I really rejected that, and I looked in all different other directions. Now, it was only when I read Pippa Funnell's autobiography that I started to get interested because she had some really truly awful, really, rider fears. And if you read her autobiography, you'll find out that she used NLP to get rid of them. And it was only in reading that I thought, you know what? There might be something in it. This isn't this either airy fairy or kind of cure all that I was seeing it as. Maybe it was worth investigating. And I didn't even realize at that time that you could have an NLP session, that you could have this private session, if you like. So I looked into courses for studying equestrian NLP, and I booked onto a course. Now, during the training, you'd be paired up. One person would be the client, one person would be the practitioner, and the practitioner would practice the technique that we were learning on the client. The only thing was the client had to have real fears. You had to get rid of something real. It wasn't role play. So this was fantastic for me, this course, because during that training, all my fears the oxes, the hacking, the mounting, looking like an idiot, the going to compete, disappeared. Even if I tried to get them back. And boy, did I try to get them back. The oxa one, I tell people quite a lot about, because that's quite a funny one, really, if you can see it in your mind. The day I got rid of the oxes on the training, I put up a course at the yard where I was, just oxes. And I sort of bobbed around them. And I thought, oh, that's okay. Yeah, fine. So then I put the oxes up because I thought, well, maybe they need to be higher for me to be frightened. Bobbed around those, fine. Then I thought, well, maybe it's the kind of buzz that you get from a training. Maybe it's just kind of carried through and tomorrow will be different. So the next day I put up a course of oxes. My poor horse did the oxes again. I thought maybe they need to be a bit wider. Maybe they need to be on half strides or something not quite, as easy. I tried every which way for probably about 2 weeks. That's how long it took for me to realise I was bored of jumping oxes. And also, I quite liked it. And this was really astounding for me. Now, I don't suggest that you, once you get rid of your fears, try to get them back. As I say, it's this real skeptic inside me that needed that, because I thought, you know what, if this does work, this is something I might like to make a career out of. But I needed that proof. So NLP is split into 3 main parts: neuro, to do with the mind; linguistic, to do with specific language, and we're going to talk a lot about language tonight; and programming, which is to do with rethinking things. It's not in the name, but it's also very much to do with visualizations. And I'll explain why, and we'll have a little go at a visualization in a few moments' time. So I was absolutely amazed, and I was so pleased that I found the key, and it worked for me. It worked when I got on the horse, because other things that I had tried were perfect and wonderful whilst I was sitting in my living room. And then when I got back on the horse, wham bam, everything that was negative came flooding back. So this was something that seemed to get rid of that vicious circle. So let's think about your fears. Whatever your fear, there's always one thing that we all have in common. If you have a fear, the unconscious mind is being overly protective. Now, the unconscious mind, some people call it the subconscious mind, is really kind of running the show. And this is exactly the part of the mind that we want to get into. So we're going to talk a lot about the unconscious mind tonight. So the conscious mind, the logical mind, says, go for it. You're perfectly good enough to ride this. And the unconscious mind says, nah, let's do fight or flight. Let's get you out of here. And there's always this conflict going on. So basically, you will not make effective changes in your riding confidence unless you engage the right part of the mind, which is the unconscious mind. This is how you gain riding confidence. So you can use NLP, you can use hypnotherapy, you can use any technique that gets inside the unconscious mind. So what you're going to discover tonight, what the unconscious mind is, how to communicate with the unconscious mind in a really fun and easy and very natural way that enables us to see and feel changes in ourselves. We're going to learn about ways in which we sabotage our own confidence without thinking or realizing, and proven strategies to stop doing them. But does it work? I hear you say. And if it works for you, will it work for me? Exactly the same questions that I had. I just want to tell you a little bit about this testimonial because I think this sums it up. And if you need any more proof, have a look at my website. There are lots of testimonials of a similar ilk. So it says, I decided to make an appointment with Tracy Cole for some NLP and confidence coaching. And I have to say, although this was only 2 weeks ago, I've noticed a tremendous difference. I feel completely different now when I'm riding and can focus on riding the horse that is actually underneath me at that moment rather than the horse I think she might become in a minute. My horse seems more relaxed and more responsive. I think because she feels more commitment and consistency in the way I ride. It's early days yet, but so far I have started to look forward to riding again. And although there's still been an odd buck or spook, I've sat with it and carried on without it becoming an issue. I can highly recommend NLP with Tracy. So just imagine that feeling. You've got your consistency back. You've got your confidence back. What else are you going to do with all that kind of newfound freedom? So where do we start? Grab yourself a pen and paper if you haven't got one already, and just jot down a few little practical ideas, because these are things that you can start to do right away. So the unconscious mind is the part of the mind where we store memories, habits, and emotions. So it's exactly the right part of the mind that we want to deal with when we're talking about rider confidence. The unconscious mind is also the part of the mind that we're not aware of because we're not thinking about it right now. The conscious mind is the logical, analytical mind. It's everything you are thinking about right now. The unconscious mind, I'm going to put now, just for brevity. It makes up at least 90% of the human mind. Some people put that figure more like 97%. So if 97% of you doesn't have the confidence you want, working with that 3%, that really logical side of you, is going to be really tough. So now you can see why it's difficult to talk yourself confident or have somebody else persuade you that you are good enough and you can do it. The little iceberg picture is really good because it shows you that we think that our conscious mind is running the show. The tip of the iceberg, the 3% or up to 10% of what we are and who we are. The other 90 odd percent beneath the surface is the unconscious mind. And it stands to reason that this is actually the part of the mind that's running the show. This is the part of the mind that we've got to change. So how does that help your riding confidence? It's all very nice knowledge, but let's get into changing your riding confidence. I'm going to tell you about 5 little characteristics of the unconscious mind and how a miscommunication might have occurred, making us feel less than confident, and how we can rectify that. So first of all, the unconscious mind wants to protect you. It wants to serve you. It wants the best for you. So although it feels as though your mind's working against you, it's actually working with you, but it's got the wrong end of the stick. It wants to protect you from all the what if images and words that you and I keep sending it. So every single time you have thought a negative what if, or you've thought that you're not good enough, or you've thought that something is scary, that's still stored in your unconscious mind. It doesn't go away. So you can think of how many times you tell yourself as you're riding that it's scary, and how many times you've ridden, And how many of those are lodged in your brain? So now the unconscious mind has got this idea that riding is something that you don't really want to do, you want to escape from. So it's trying to find a way to help you to escape. Okay, so it's very much the primitive part of the mind. It's the caveman's mind. And you are reacting in exactly the same way as our caveman ancestors would if they were faced with a bear coming for them. It's fight or flight. No time for reasoning, and it's very automatic. The unconscious mind works at absolute lightning quick speeds, far, far faster, thousands of times faster than your conscious mind, which is why when you sit in your saddle and you think, right, I've learned all these great techniques, and it all kind of goes to pot because that unconscious mind comes in so fast, so automatic, that if it's thinking it's got to protect you, those logical thoughts, those nice logical exercises that maybe you did, don't get a look in. So if you are afraid and you've told the unconscious mind time and time again what you're afraid of, and it's to do with riding, the unconscious mind tries to get you out of the situation just as it tried to get you away from a bear. So it creates in you more and more feelings associated with fear. So if you just had a minor little flutter of fear, maybe a few little butterflies, maybe, your fingers were just shaking a little bit, then it's kind of thinking to itself, well, then they're not getting off this horse. I need to do a bit more. The unconscious mind also controls the body. And so without you even thinking, suddenly maybe you feel a bit nauseous. Maybe your throat's gone dry. Your palms might have gone sweaty. Maybe you can't even think straight. Your legs have gone to jelly. Or maybe you're gripping. Or maybe your hands have gone heavy, or your hands have gone so light that they're completely ineffective. All of these things your mind's doing because it's thinking, if I do that, they'll get off this horse and then we'll be okay. Because we've probably communicated as well that we get more joy out of getting off than we do of getting on. So what are we going to do about this? Simple. Ask yourself, am I okay now? In this split second, in this teeny tiny moment, am I okay? Not, am I okay in a minute's time or 5 minutes' time, but in this specific moment now, maybe the time of half a stride, am I okay? Breathe out deeply, inhale deeply, and say this to yourself almost like a mantra. I'm okay now, and now, and now, and now. And if you can do it in time with your breathing, so much the better. Because it's giving the conscious mind something to do. So the conscious mind, we don't want it butting in and saying, oh yeah, this is quite scary actually. We want to get it out of the way, give it something to do, communicate to the unconscious mind that you're okay now, and now, and now. And so we're getting this kind of agreement between the conscious and the unconscious minds. So it's reinforcing to the unconscious mind that all is well in this moment, and we can only live in that single teeny tiny moment. So as I say, it keeps the conscious mind occupied. You've got to think about the words and the breathing, and you're starting to get this link, this agreement or congruency between the conscious and unconscious minds. And that's what we want. They're working together. So if they're both okay together, then we're okay. Characteristic number 2. The unconscious mind listens in all the time and takes things really personally. So it doesn't matter if you're talking about yourself, either verbally or inside your mind, or if you're talking about somebody else. It assumes that you're talking about yourself. So be really careful of your chatter, what you're saying out loud and what you're saying in your head. So if you say, I'm a rubbish rider, even if you're saying it to be modest, oh, not me, oh gosh, I'm a rubbish rider, I am. Or if you're saying, I'm a nervous rider, maybe you're telling an instructor, or you're saying, I can't canter, hack, jump, compete, or whatever it is. Or even if you're watching somebody else and you're saying, well, she can't ride that horse. Or, oh, he's really overhorsed himself. Your unconscious mind thinks that you're talking about yourself, and it takes it to heart as being completely true. So what we're going to do about this one, speak kindly about others and yourself. So if you say something negative about yourself or anyone else, just remember to add, that's how I used to be. So if you fall into the old thinking, quickly say to yourself, that's how I used to be. Or, well, I used to be a nervous rider. So that was the old me. There's other ways that you can break that thinking as well. You might want to say to yourself something like, stop. Stop is a really powerful word in NLP and in real life. If you say stop really firmly, you watch how many people around you do stop. It's that powerful. So you can say to yourself, stop. Another one that I like to use, and people who know me will smile because I do this myself. I'm often listening to riders telling me about their issues. Now, you know yourselves, because I've told you how my mind works, how I pick up on these things. Only took those girls talking about mounting for me to take it on board as my own fear. So the last thing I want in this job is to pick up on other people's fears and absorb them myself. So I do something very similar. I say to myself, delete, delete, delete. I don't want to pick up those fears. I want to listen to the person and then delete them. So that's my little thing. Delete, delete, delete. So choose your own thing. Either put the sentence into the past tense, tell yourself to stop, or delete, delete, delete. And as long as you say it nice and firmly, it does cancel out what's just gone before. So it's really powerful to use this language and to stop yourself before you go into that flow. Another thing to think about here is that you've kind of told yourself that riding is scary, and we've discussed fear and so on. Then you've told yourself that you're a rubbish rider. The unconscious mind is a little bit like a child, maybe a 5-year-old child. It doesn't really get, maybe if you are being very modest, or you are kind of calling yourself a nervous rider and you mean it in a humorous way, it doesn't get that. That's too sophisticated. It just takes it on board quite literally. So imagine now telling a 5-year-old for most of his or her life that riding is scary and you don't have what it takes anyway to cope. And then sitting this poor child on a pony, slapping the pony's backside and saying, right, off you go, have a nice ride. And that's what we do to ourselves. So change your thoughts and the behavior starts to change as well. Let's look at number 3. The unconscious mind really likes symbols and metaphors and it doesn't know the difference between reality and imagination. So this is really good for us because it means we can use visualizations. And if it doesn't know the difference between reality and imagination, if you can ride well and confidently in your imagination, and if, let's say, you can do that 10 times, when you go to do it in reality, your unconscious mind thinks you're doing your 11th go. It thinks you've got 10 successful rides under your belt. So visualization is really, really powerful. Let's have a little go at a visualization now. Now, I know some of you, if I asked you to do a visualization now of a really nice ride, perhaps the what ifs would creep in. So let's do something different. You can always, when you've practiced a few of these techniques, go back and visualize the perfect ride. But let's just try something a bit different just for now. So you can either close your eyes or you can just stare at a spot with nice soft eyes. And I want you to think about how you're riding now. And I want you to just then rewind in your mind to a time when you didn't feel this way. So for some of you, I want you to go back maybe before you started riding. Maybe a couple of years ago, maybe when you were much younger, maybe when you had a different horse. Just a word of caution. Don't do this technique for a trauma or a fear that you would call a phobia. Not just yet, anyway. If you do have something that's traumatic, there's far better visualizations and far better techniques for that. So just get in touch with me. For now, choose something less charged. So imagine this time before you had the problem. And I want you to freeze frame any pictures that you're seeing in your mind. And imagine that you're standing at a crossroads. But rather than having 3 or 4 roads, you've got about 10 in front of you. Each one leads to a different future. One of them was the one that you took, and it brought you to this moment now. Others are very different and would have taken you to alternative futures. Maybe one of them was that you had nothing to do with horses. If you had a horse at this point, you sold them and you got a budgie. Made life far cheaper, far easier. Now, you wouldn't want to do that. So it's not that it's not a possibility. It's just something that's not very attractive. But it's a possibility. It's not out of the realms of your abilities to do that, to imagine that. Some of the other routes may be things like you decided to just downgrade your riding, or maybe just do groundwork. And because you're here and now, maybe that's something that you don't want either. Maybe you don't want somebody else to ride your horse, or you don't want your horse not to be ridden, or you don't want to only do groundwork. So again, it's a possibility, but it's not terribly attractive. Another route might be that, you don't really care about this riding confidence stuff because, whatever gets thrown at you, it's water off a duck's back. You have this way of just saying, well, that happened, I'll get back on, and that's that. Very difficult, but a possibility. Some people do it, so it's not impossible. And if you look at these different roads, some of them may be more attractive than others. Some of them you've got no idea what they would lead to, where they would take you. Some of them maybe you've got more of an idea. One of them looks a little bit more attractive. It looks as though your fears never really manifested, and you've had a really great time with your riding, just take a few steps onto that road. Maybe it looks brighter or somehow different to the other roads. There's just something about it. Maybe you know what it is, and maybe you can't put your finger on what it is that's really attractive. Maybe you just feel this inner glow or confidence or something very exciting about it. Maybe it's the way you're talking to yourself or others are speaking to you that makes it different. Just enjoy being here just for a few moments. Just imagine it, because we know that for the unconscious mind, this is real. And now, what I would like you to do is to fast forward in your mind to now, to that first impression that you had in your mind's eye when I asked you to think about how you currently ride. And I want you to freeze that picture. And I want you to see a similar set of roads popping up in front of you. And again, you've got very similar options. Sell your horse. Sell all your kit. Have nothing to do with horses. That's not very nice. That's not what you want. But it's a possibility. And all the other ones that we discussed some that were really difficult to do, some that were easier, some that you just don't want, some that you would like. Maybe there's another one that is, again, more attractive. Just something about it is more compelling. Maybe it's the one where you put these mind techniques into play. Maybe it's the one where you have some hypnosis. Maybe it's the one where you just work on your mind. Or some other way of getting to be the rider that you want to be. And you just take a few steps down that road. Go as far as you like. And almost bask in it. Enjoy it. How does it feel to be there? What can you see? Can you see anything? However you do it is just perfect for your mind and your imagination. Enjoy being here for a few moments. And you can do this whenever you like. And the unconscious mind understands this because this is what it does every single moment to moment. It weighs up a series of choices and it takes the one that it thinks is best for you. So remember, it might be highly protective. It might be overly protective and making you feel so bad that you don't want to ride. But if you can convince the mind that there is an alternative way that's easier, more pleasant, more attractive, and just leads to, a feeling that is far, far more compelling than the ones that it's currently doing, then you can encourage the mind to take that road and not your current one. Good. Okay, so come back to now. Open your eyes. Come back into the room. Come back into reality. Use visualizations as much as you can. Because as I say, once your mind's already done it a number of times, by the time you come to do it for real, well, your mind already knows what to do. What we're doing is confusing the unconscious mind into thinking that the desired situation is actually happening. Just to remember, if you send your unconscious mind a disaster movie, because you may do, even in a visualization, quickly change the ending to a happy Hollywood one. Do what you have to do, even if it's not in the realms of reality, to get rid of that disaster movie. It's much more important then to get rid of the disaster movie than have something that feels terribly real. So if you need to turn your horse into a unicorn do that. Just get rid of that disaster movie. If you need to say to yourself, stop, delete, 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 that's how I used to be. That's the old me. Any one of those. Choose which works for you and use it. Characteristic number 4 is that the unconscious mind makes associations quickly and also forms habits quickly. Now, our horses live even more in their unconscious minds than we do. So you know how quickly a horse can do this, and we can do it more or less as quickly too. So good and bad habits form really quickly. So it's really useful, if you want to learn to drive, and you quickly learn to do it automatically. Think back to the time when you were learning to drive. And oh my goodness, just coming to a red light was horrendous because there was all this, what gear should I be in? Am I looking in my mirror? Do I need to signal? Do I need to dip my clutch? What am I doing with my brake? Do I need to steer? There was so much to do with both hands and both feet. And now you can do it so naturally without thinking. You can listen to the radio and you can talk to somebody. You can think about what you're having for tea. And the unconscious mind has done that for you. But it will reinforce your issues and bad memories and make them worse if you keep thinking back to them. It'll become a habit and it'll reinforce good memories and make those better. So what we need to do is stop going over past scenarios. And I know we all do it. We all go through it. We see things in our mind 100 times. We think, oh, I should have done that. I should have done this. Do endeavour to stop overanalyzing what you could have, should have, would have done. Because it's this reinforcement that we don't want. It's making the unconscious mind think that this is real. Each time that you go over something that isn't very pleasant, the unconscious mind thinks it's happened again. It thinks that's what happens when you ride. And this thing may have only happened once. It may have happened years ago. Stop explaining the details of your riding issues or accidents or fears. So if somebody asks you about your riding, about an accident or your fears, give them a very superficial view. Give them the most briefest description you can do. Don't go into the details. Don't start 10 years ago and then an hour later still be explaining. I know it's tempting because you want to tell somebody, but you know now what's happening as you do that. You're reliving it and your unconscious mind's thinking, oh my God, that's happened again. Think about when I was telling you about my 3 horses. I tried very much to steer clear of giving you any details. You know that it was to do with jumping and then later on to do with mounting, but you don't know the reasons why. You don't know what I was thinking. You don't know any specifics. And that's how you want to keep it. You want to kind of breeze over any explanations. And if you have to do, as you're explaining it, you're saying to yourself, that's the old me. Delete, delete, delete. This one is probably my favorite. This one is so clever. The unconscious mind doesn't process negatives. What this means in everyday terms is it doesn't recognize the word not. It just ignores it, just takes it out of the sentence. Let's have a little look at some examples. If you say, I do not want my horse to bolt, that's what you're thinking inside your head, or you've verbalized it. Your unconscious mind hears, I want my horse to bolt, just takes that word not out. The unconscious mind controls the body. So it's thinking, okay, well, you want your horse to bolt. Well, what I need to do probably is to make you feel a little bit on edge. So the horse feels on edge. So the slightest thing will make him or her go. So the unconscious mind isn't doing this to be awkward. It's trying to serve you. So it's trying to serve you and get you what you want. It's just a kind of miscommunication. If you say, I don't want my horse to refuse that jump, your unconscious mind hears, I want my horse to refuse. So your unconscious mind thinks, oh great, well what I'll do is I'll make your hands really heavy so that the slightest touch of the reins is a great big pull and the horse just stops. I don't want my horse to spook or my hack. I want my horse to spook. So be really careful of the way that you say things. Use your language with care. In other words, say whatever it is that you want, the way that you want it. I want to hack confidently. I want to jump beautifully. I want to canter in a steady rhythm. Say what you want rather than what you don't want, because your unconscious mind is listening all the time. It's trying to serve you. It's trying to get you what you're asking for. It just doesn't understand the word not. So rephrase what you want. Now, these strategies are working right now for people just like you and me who didn't believe that they were or could be confident riders. It's going to feel a little bit false at first doing these little techniques. Fake it until you can make it. You're conning your unconscious mind. What you're actually doing is speaking in the language of the unconscious mind, the language and the visualizations that it understands and it gets, and it will get for you what you want. It will feel a little bit odd, but go with it. Here's a little testimonial from Julia, and she says, Gulliver and I are going great guns. The fear has gone, and I'm back to loving riding and doing some of my best riding. Thank you so much for your help. And this is what I want for you. I know that you're tired of trying to figure out every trick, every tactic to stop the nerves, and it's exhausting. It's disappointing. It's frustrating. I know. I really have been there. And you want to do more of what you love, riding the way you know you can, when it clicks, when you get it, when you've got that big broad smile on your face, and less of feeling desperately disappointed. And deep down, I think in your equestrian heart, you know now the importance of changing the way you think, which is going to change the way you act and the way you perceive things as well. And you perceive yourself as a rider. It's time to pull on those jodhpurs and those boots, get your feet in the stirrups again. It's time to ride the way that you know that you really can. Remember, nothing I've shared with you is like highly theoretical. I've used it on myself and countless clients to smash through their nerves. And people have come back from all kinds of obstacles. So you've got the two options, fun and easy. Apply a little bit of this mind science, this little bit of psychology, or that stuff that when I think about the way I was hitting my head against a brick wall. I really was. I was trying things, but nothing ever came to fruition. And I did feel as though I was wading through mud. Now, to help you, if you're interested in how the mind works and applying it a little bit more, if it's something that you're interested in, I'd like to just tell you about a few special offers that you may or may not want to take up. And If you're listening on the replay, then these offers will still be open to you. I'm going to open this for about 24 hours or so after the webinar, maybe a little bit longer, it depends. This is the website that you need to go to that's written there. And I'm sometimes a little bit inefficient at these things. I need to shut it down to close the offers. So you may find, you may not find, that it lasts a little bit longer. So the first offer is a hypnosis. Now, hypnosis is another way of getting into the unconscious mind. We relax, and that's the way the conscious mind gets out of the way. So we use breathing and visualizations, get the conscious mind thinking about something so we can get right in to the unconscious mind. And this hypnosis doesn't really matter what discipline it is that you're interested in. It doesn't matter about your level. It doesn't matter about the fears that you have at the moment. So that's a little offer. It's £30 for a 40-minute hypnosis. Listen a few times a week for a few weeks and let me know how you get on. The second offer that I've got for you is a little bit different. This is something that I've really seen very quick results with and upsurges in confidence levels. This, I suppose, is how I did it, and I've packaged it together. I want you to be able to maintain this by yourself. Having to contact somebody like me or have multiple sessions isn't the way that I want my clients to be. I want them to be able to go away and do this for themselves. So I'd like to invite you to a little e-learning course called Confident to the Core. Confident to the Core, I really am quite proud of this course. I'm not given to pride normally, but I have seen some great changes in riders, and I welcome you to have a little look at my website if you're not too sure about it. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about it now, so maybe you can decide whether it's something that would appeal to you. I think of it as a blueprint for creating and then maintaining riding confidence using some pretty advanced mind technologies, not just NLP, but some other technologies, creating your future technologies, timeline therapy, hypnosis techniques. And it puts you back on track and allows this to feel a little bit more like it's on autopilot. The first module is getting in the right mindset. And here today, we've talked a little bit about that. And each of the modules is a 1-hour webinar, 1-hour video to really, really hammer this home and to expand on what we've been doing tonight. We're going to set goals in such a way that your unconscious mind understands them. So rather than just thinking, I would like to, we're going to implant them into the unconscious mind so it really understands what you want. We're going to find out what the questions are that you need to ask to maximize the results that you get. Be responsible for your own results so that you are almost empowered to do what you want to do. It's not coming from somewhere or somebody else. It's not that you only feel confident with an instructor or a certain friend, or that you placing the blame somewhere else. It's really nice to know that this is what you've done. You've achieved it. We're going to learn something called Hakalau, which, believe it or not, is a Hawaiian technique, which is something you can do whilst you're riding to maintain your confidence. Module 2 starts to break down your ideas that you currently have about riding, and it's kind of like a gateway into the unconscious mind. So we talk about how your mind develops a perception and how that is only a best guess. And perceptions, believe it or not, are usually wildly out. So you're probably seeing things right now in a very negative way in terms of your riding confidence. And it's a way to break that habit. We'll also look at how we egg on our unconscious mind to get the very thing that we don't want. And again, we've talked a little bit about that this evening. And we'll mention all the prime directives of the unconscious mind, which is a really, really comprehensive tour of the unconscious mind. We've mentioned 5 characteristics tonight. There's actually about 20 to go through. So it's really, really getting to the heart of these problems and smashing through them. Then module 3, we start to change the way we think because we've loosened up the ideas now. Now we want to pop into the mind some really positive ways of thinking about it, really boosting the confidence. So we've done the groundwork, let's say. Now we want to change our thinking. And the same for module 4, even more change techniques. So you're getting this multi-pronged attack, different techniques using different parts of the unconscious mind. Module 4 is really good because it shows you a way to be in charge of your feelings rather than your feelings being in charge of you. That's pretty powerful. And then module 5, I love this one, using hypnotic language. Not hypnosis as such, but what makes something that is hypnotic, hypnotic? And how you can learn the basics of this so you can calm yourself down when you're riding or tacking up or whatever you're doing. And your horses respond to this kind of language. And so do cats and dogs if you want to try it on your other animals as well. So that's our 5 modules. So you get 5 videos, one for each module, building on the knowledge of each week, or each module, I should say. You also get all the exercises and worksheets to follow to really bring about the changes that you want. So what I do on the video is that I teach you what's important about the technique, what makes this technique work, which bit of the language or which step makes the technique really good so that you can do it for yourself. But I also take you through the technique just like a private client. So you kind of get the double whammy. You feel as though you've been taken through it like a client, and then you're told how to make it work for yourself. We also have a Facebook group, private Facebook group, so everyone can share all their successes, but also their challenges, because what you normally find is that riders come with a certain set of goals, they achieve those goals, and then they're on to the next step. And then they need to boost their own confidence to make them realize that they can go for that next step. So it's a really nice, friendly group that we have there. So what's the investment? Well, today it's just £97. Normally speaking, it's 147. So it's just using this special website that I'm going to give you. If you go to my normal website, you'll have to pay the 147. But this is just a little thank you for being with me on the webinar. And also, I do want to kickstart lots of people's confidence. That is one of my prime directives. That's what I want to do. This is a little testimonial. The course has been fab. A significant step forward for me is to book a ride with a friend days in advance and actually look forward to it, as opposed to a few weeks back when it would have been filled with what ifs and would have built and built into on the day dreading it. Now I say enough every time that comes in my head, and it's made a huge difference. So Lee uses enough instead of delete, delete, delete or stop. So that's another one that you could perhaps try on and see if you prefer that. But you can see people are getting results relatively quickly on this. I'm also offering a 30-day money back guarantee. So all you would have to do would be to listen to all the webinars, go through the whole course, make the notes, practice in the way that I tell you, show me that you've been doing this, and I'll discuss with you any queries and questions along the way, support you fully. And if you're still not happy, I'll give you your refund. So here's the website, https. So you might want to just type this in now or make a note of it on pen and paper. HTTPS, the S, if you've not seen those before, I'm sure you have, means that it's a secure website, so you can pay with confidence. Colon, // www. all one word, tracycolenlp.com / webinar -offer. And that will take you to this special payment page rather than the ones that's on my normal website. So it's £97 versus £147 normally. That's the website again. I also just want to give you one last little offer if you are interested. You may want to have the Hypnosis MP3 and the Confident to the Core e-learning course. If you want both, then you can buy both just for 110, which is roughly half price. There's the website. So again, might be something that would be of interest to you. There's the website again. So when you go to the website, it'll look a little bit like this. All you need to do is pop your full name in. Click on the button that says pay with card, and you can pay, as I say, securely with a credit card, or you can pay with a debit card. Choose from the drop-down menu which one you want. Now for the Confident to the Core, if you want the full course, it's £97. You can also pay for one module at a time. That's absolutely fine too. If you need any help in ordering, or you need any more information at all, or maybe you just want to ask me a question about something that popped up on the webinar, then absolutely wonderful. There's my email address. Please do contact me. Let me know how you get on. There's the webinar offer page 2. I'm just going to stay online for a few more moments. I'm just going to answer any questions that pop up. And I'm going to answer a few questions that came in on emails just prior to the webinar a few days ago, while I'm just waiting for a few chat questions. So the first one is, it says, I'm not sure I can learn from the e-course. I might get stuck. Is there anything that I can do? Well, we do have the Facebook group, and they're a great gang of people that have lots of ideas. You can also email me anytime. We can either arrange a phone call, or we can maybe hammer it home using the email, so that you're fully supported at all times. You don't need to feel that this is something that you take away and you do completely on your own. You can do. A lot of people do, but you don't need to. When does the e-course start? Well, it can start anytime. You can sign up at any time, and you can work at your own pace. So you may want to watch one video a week. You may want to do it all in one go over a weekend. I think it's easier if you spread it out a little bit, so you get a chance for it to sift through the membranes and you just take it on board a little bit, get a chance to practice too. So you can start anytime and work at whatever pace suits you. Let's have a little look. How often do you need to listen to the hypnosis? Some people it depends on your mind, and you won't, unless you've had hypnosis before, you probably won't know. Some people it works instantly. Other people, you might need to listen a bit more. I always say, as a rule of thumb, 3 or 4 times a week for 3 or 4 weeks, and you should see some really good changes. You may not require that amount, but that's a good rule of thumb. 3 or 4 times a week for 3 or 4 weeks. Okay, so which one is best, hypnosis or NLP? Okay, well, this is really horses for courses. Um, they both distract the conscious mind in such a way that you can get into the unconscious. So NLP uses visualizations, language, and hypnosis uses, again, you usually taken on some kind of visualization, or it's breathing, or you're thinking about relaxing different muscle groups. So you've got these different jobs to give the conscious mind, so the unconscious mind gets the message. Um, with hypnosis, it works best if you just deal with one issue at a time. So if you have several issues that aren't related, you may need different hypnosis recordings or sessions, depending, if it was something like mounting and then trotting, then you could probably do that in one hypnosis. But if it was widely disparate issues, then you would need two separate sessions or recordings. NLP is a little can be a little bit more generalized. Um, NLP can be a lot quicker. Again, it's what appeals to you and maybe what you have time for. Lots of people enjoy listening to a hypnosis just before they go to sleep. So you get the benefit of relaxing just before you go to bed or in bed. Okay, are there any more questions? So if you're ordering the MP3 or you're ordering the course or both, just give it a little bit of time before you get your materials. So if they don't materialize immediately, then don't worry, they are on their way. Do get in touch with me for any questions or any advice that you want, or you want to know a little bit more about any of the techniques. Do enjoy your riding, have a go at what we've mentioned this evening, and have a great time being confident and enjoying your riding. So take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now. Bye.